Hey, what's up guys? It's Burden here from addictgaming.net. Today I'm going to show you a pistol dagger condition thief that I have been really enjoying, especially in World vs. World and PvP. Now this build does take a little while to get used to. There is a bit of a skill cap on it, but just give it a shot, give it a little bit of practice, and I think you will end up enjoying this build as much as I do. Okay guys, let's go over the positives and negatives of this build and hopefully give you a good sense of what this build is like and if you will enjoy it or not. One of the positives of this build is that it has spike damage, but not in the sense of physical damage. It actually does spike condition damage. Within 1 or 2 clicks of our skills, we can put on roughly 5 to 8 confusion, 3 to 5 torment, 6 vulnerability, 6 stacks of bleeding, and a chill onto a target. Now having 8 stacks of confusion on a target is very dangerous to them because if you think of like a double dagger Ellie, confusion is very powerful against them because they have to use a lot of skills very quickly. Another positive of this build is that we have escape abilities through some abilities such as withdraw and shadow step, and also through stealthing with our cloak and dagger. This is very much needed in this build because we are most definitely a hit and run type build where we want to go in and do a lot of our condition damage and then kind of stay on the outside of the fight throwing down some conditions. You don't want to put yourself in all of the AoE. Another positive is the stealthing itself, mostly because we have shadow rejuvenation, so whenever we pop into stealth we are actually going to be healing ourselves. So every 3 seconds we get a little bit of healing and we get condition removal with that as well. And I guess I could talk a little bit about the condition removal in this build. We don't have a whole lot of condition removal, but we have enough. Every time we pop into stealth, we'll remove a condition. And we also have shadow step that will remove a few conditions if we really need to remove those conditions. But what I've noticed with this build is if I'm going against another condition damage build, I'm usually putting so much pressure on them that they're having to react defensively and I can stay offensive in that fight, and I usually come out on top on condition versus condition damage build fights. Now if we get into the negatives, the first negative I could think of is that it does take a bit of skill to play this build, mostly because you have to watch out for your initiative use. You have to be very careful with that because once you run out of initiative, you have no more tricks up your sleeve and it's probably the end of you. Also, we take advantage of perplexity runes in World vs. World, and you have to learn how to interrupt pretty much on a consistent basis, because if you're using your stealth and you're not interrupting your target, you're not stacking the 5 stacks of confusion on them, and you're basically wasting your steel. I think the only other negative that I could say about this build is the lack of movement speed in the build. Now I actually use Signet of Shadows, so I don't have this problem, but I'm going to suggest in the build that you actually use Shadow's Refuge instead of Signet of Shadows because it gives you a little more survivability. Maybe if you get more comfortable with the build, then you can work in Signet of Shadows and you get that movement speed back. So to do a little recap with this build, you are looking at a very heavy spike condition damage build, putting tons of heavy conditions on a target at once, then kind of sustaining that damage while waiting for cooldowns, keeping some pressure on them, keeping them on the defensive, and then when your cooldowns are done, then you use your big conditions again and melt them away. It's a build where you have to pop in and out of combat, you have to move around the battlefield a lot, popping in and out of stealth, and just using your movement abilities to get around and to escape damage. It's a really fun build. It's a bit challenging if you are new to a build like this, but you should definitely give it a shot because I think you guys will really enjoy this build. Okay, let's look at our gear and our stats in this build. Now, of course, we're going to want a lot of condition damage. I was using carry-ons at first, but what I realized is the power really isn't that necessary because we do so much condition damage anyway. So I am wearing Dagger now. I could replace that power with another defensive stat. Condition damage, toughness, and vitality. Condition damage being the highest stat. And we get a lot of survivability through that. For our runes, we are using Rune of Perplexity, all 6 runes, and you can see we get confusion duration and condition damage Then our 4 set, a 25% chance when struck to inflict 3 stacks of confusion for 5 seconds. And then the big one, the 6 set bonus, 20% confusion duration. When you interrupt a foe, cause 5 stacks of confusion for 8 seconds. And that's on a 15-second cooldown. So that means every time we use our steal, as long as we're interrupting somebody, we're putting 5 stacks of confusion on that person. These runes are very, very strong. I try to stay away from them, but I wanted to play Condition Thief, so you need the Perplexity runes. It just makes the Condition Thief that much stronger. Now with our amulet, our accessories, and our rings, we're using, it's basically a version of Dagger. They throw in a little precision. So again, condition damage, toughness, vitality, condition damage being the highest one, and then there's a little bit of precision in there. And that's on all of our accessories, rings, and amulet as well. For our weapons, our main weapon set will be pistol, dagger. For pistol, we have Dagger. Actually, all the weapons should be Dagger. I think I have a couple. Yeah, this pistol's carry on still, and this dagger's carry on still. So they should all be Dagger though. And for the sigil, we have Sigil of Malice, 10% condition duration. That means when we put on all of the heavy conditions onto the target at the beginning, the longer they're on, then the more damage they'll be doing. So 10% condition duration, Superior Sigil of Malice. And Superior Sigil of Ice, this gives us another condition to apply. This gives us 30% chance on hit to inflict chill. And most of these sigils are chance on crit, but this one's chance on hit, so it doesn't matter if we don't have any crit chance in our build. But this gives us another condition applier, so we can put a bigger spread of conditions on the target. So if they're trying to cleanse all of our conditions, they're going to have a harder time and probably have to blow a few more cooldowns. And chill, 2 seconds of chill every 10 seconds is pretty powerful, because just chill is a very powerful condition. In our offset, I put Sigil of Corruption on the dagger. I did this because I wanted Malice and Ice on the, because this is where we're going to do a lot of our attacking. So I wanted the more active ones to be on the main weapon set, and then I put my stacking one on the offset. I just use Dagger Pistol to go into stealth basically when I think I'm screwed or I'm in a tough spot. I'll switch to Dagger Pistol, then pop into stealth and run away. So I put my Sigil of Corruption. So when you go out to World vs. World, just go into this weapon set and get your 25 stacks of Corruption, and then you can go out with your 25 stacks of Corruption and use your main set. And then Superior Sigil of Energy. Again, like I said, this is kind of my escape set. So when I go into this set, I'm going to pop into stealth, and getting the 50% endurance back when I swap to this lets me dodge again if I need to, just to try to escape and get away. So those are our stats and our gear. I'm not going to lie, this was actually a pretty expensive build to put together, which is why I'm still using carry-on 2 of my weapons. I didn't want to spend any more money. Perplexity runes are quite expensive, and dire armor as well is a bit expensive. So in World vs. World, this is going to cost you a pretty penny to put together, but of course in PvP, this build works just as well in PvP with a few variations, and it won't cost you anything. Okay, so if we look at our stats in PvP, there are quite a few changes because there are some things that are not available to us. If we look at our runes, I'm actually using Rune of the Crate because we don't have Rune of Perplexity out here. There's condition damage and bleeding duration. And also, when you use your elite skill, you inflict bleeding, torment, and poison for 8 seconds to nearby foes. So if I use my Basilisk Venom nearby people, then I can stack those conditions on somebody. For our amulet, I'm using Carry On because we don't have Dire, so Carry On is the best choice. You want Vitality over Toughness in this build. And for our sigils, our main set, Pistol Dagger, I actually put the Corruption stacking one on this set now because there is no Malice sigil in PvP. So I could put the Corruption and stack the Corruption in PvP on my main set. And I have Sigil of Ice as well. And on the offset, I have Sigil of Doom. I inflict poison when I switch to this. So if I switch to this and I pop into stealth and I use my Heartseeker, which is what we need to do to pop into stealth, and I can put poison on the target and still be in stealth. And then Sigil of Energy for the same reasons I stated in World vs. World. Alright, so let's go over our traits for this build. Now there's one trait difference between SPVP and World vs. World, and that would be Sleight of Hand. In World vs. World we use Sleight of Hand because we have the Perplexity runes, and whenever we interrupt a target, we put 5 stacks of confusion on that target. So we can't use that in SPVP because there are no runes of Perplexity. So what we do is we take that out and we put in Bewildering Ambush instead. It's a guaranteed 5 stacks of confusion on the target. So it's much easier to use. The thing is, with Sleight of Hands we can use it more often because it also reduces the recharge of steel by 20%. So we're able to steal more, interrupting targets more, putting those 5 stacks of confusion on that target more. So I would say though, Bewildering Ambush, if you are struggling on interrupting targets, go ahead and pick up Bewildering Ambush because you get the guaranteed 5 stacks of confusion even if you are not doing it as often. I'll just pick this up until you get comfortable with interrupting targets, and it'll just do just fine for the meantime. Now we go to Deadly Arts. We have Serpent's Touch. Stealing inflicts poison. So when we steal, not only will we be putting on confusion, but we will be putting on a very long poison as well. And Mug. Deal damage and gain life when stealing. So this really helps out mid-fight. You're a little damaged. You're going to get a nice big chunk of healing. And we're using steel anyway, so it's a nice little synergy with steel. In Shadow Arts, we have Last Refuge. Use Blinding Powder when your health reaches a certain threshold. So when we reach 25% health, we will use Blinding Powder, which blinds nearby foes and puts us into stealth, which helps us apply conditions and heal up as well. Shadow's Embrace. Remove conditions periodically while in stealth. So basically every time we go into stealth, we will be able to remove one condition. Meld with Shadow. Stealth skills last longer. Infusion of Shadow, gain initiative when you enter stealth. Now this is really important, like I said in the intro, you have to be careful of how much initiative you use. So to gain initiative back when we go into stealth, let's just use Cloak and Dagger more. You can see it costs 6 initiative to use Cloak and Dagger, but with this trait it only costs 4 initiative. Then we have Hidden Assassin, gain might when you gain stealth. We're going into stealth, we're popping in and out of stealth, so we might be getting, maybe like 6 stacks of might for 15 seconds. We also have Shadow's Rejuvenation. Regenerate health while in stealth. This doesn't scale very well with healing power, so don't worry about trying to put healing power into your build. But it really helps with sustainability because we're going in and out of stealth so much anyway. We're going to get a lot of healing from Shadow Rejuvenation. In Trickery, Kleptomaniac. Stealing gives you initiative, so here's some more initiative gain where we can use Cloak and Dagger more and some of our other skills. Caltrops. Scatter caltrops that cripple and bleed foes when you dodge. So this helps if somebody's chasing you, you can dodge, and if they walk through it, they'll end up being crippled. It helps you move around the battlefield a little more without too much pressure on you. Preparedness increases maximum initiative by 3, so here's even more initiative gain, increasing our maximum by 3, so we can use Cloak and Dagger more. And we have Bountiful Theft. Stealing grants you and all nearby allies vigor. You rip boons from your target and grant them to nearby allies. So it's not only do you get the vigor, which helps give you endurance regen to dodge enemy attacks and then also use your caltrops, your uncatchable, but you also are able to rip 2 boons from that target as well. And lead attacks increases damage per initiative. And again, we talked about Bewildering Ambush and Sleight of Hand. Sleight of Hand for World vs. World, Bewildering Ambush for SPVP. If you're having trouble with your Sleight of Hands, you can try out Bewildering Ambush for a little while until you get used to the builds and then go to Sleight of Hands. Let's do a skill demonstration of our skills and our weapon sets and our utilities. Now for the heal, I'm bringing Withdraw because it cures Immobilized, Chilled, and Crippled, and it's only on a 15-second cooldown. And we also get a nice evade from it. Not only that, but it gives a nice little distance between us and the target if we're getting harassed and we need a little room between us. I'm also bringing Shadow Step for the same reason. I can Shadow Step over here and just kind of bouncing around the battlefield. By the time they get over here, I could come back to where I Shadow Step before. It also cures 3 conditions when you return, when you use the Shadow Step the second time. So that's another, that's a little more condition removal that we have in the build. For my 2 Venoms, I have Scale Venom, which applies 3 stacks of Torment and 3 stacks of Vulnerability. And I have Basilisk Venom, which puts your target into stone duration 1.5 seconds. So Usually when I open up my combo, I'll put my Venoms on, and then I'll do something like that, and then you can see all the conditions that are put on him. And I'd see it did about that much damage, but the Golem didn't do any action, so he didn't even take any confusion damage. If he would have been doing actions, casting spells, he probably would be dead already. So that's it for, or actually, sorry, for the last utility, I'm bringing Signet of Shadows for the extra movement speed, just because that's what I prefer more. You can bring Shadow Refuge if you feel like you want a little more survivability and just another escape in the build. You might want to bring Shadow's Refuge instead of Signet of Shadows. When you get a little more comfortable with the build, then go ahead and bring Signet of Shadows. So that's Shadow Refuge. Now let's talk about the offset weapon set first. And that's the Dagger pistol. This is the one that I use mostly for escaping. And here's how you do it. If you don't know how the Dagger pistol weapon set works, if we put down our black powder, our number 5, it creates a smoke field, and we could use a leap through that smoke field, and that will put us into stealth. And our Heartseeker is a leap. So we put down our smoke field, and then we use our Heartseeker. Now we're stealth, and we can run away, and we're healing from our Shadow Rejuvenation, and getting away from our targets as well. And you can keep doing that. Just be aware of the initiative use. You have to be a little patient with it. So that's why I bring this weapon set for my other weapon set, not my main one, just to get away, to get into stealth, and to heal. Now for my main weapon set, we have Cloak and Dagger. This is the bread and butter of the build. This is, the most important thing, and this is what will put us into stealth. We have to be in melee range, and when we're in melee range, we hit them with our dagger, and it puts us into stealth for 4 seconds. Now when we're in stealth, if we look at our vital shot, that's bleeding. If we're not in stealth and we use vital shot, we put 1 stack of bleeding on the target. Now if we go into stealth, this turns into sneak attack, where we put 5 stacks of bleeding. So we do multiple shots on the target. Let me go back into stealth. There you go. So now we're putting multiple stacks of bleeding on the target, and so we could get a higher stack of bleeding. So that's kind of what you do. You go around, Cloak and Dagger, hang out in stealth for a second, do your sneak attack. When your revealed comes off, do it again, Cloak and Dagger, go back into stealth, and then rinse and repeat. And then once your Venoms are off of cooldown, what you will do is, I'll show you a nice little trick. You put your Venoms on, and then what we're going to do is, we are going to use Cloak and Dagger, even though we're far away. Right as soon as we hit Cloak and Dagger, we're going to use Steel. And the reason we do that is, by the time we get to the target with our Steel, we're hitting him with our Cloak and Dagger, putting us into stealth, and then we can use our sneak attack to put those stacks of bleed on him. So if I did Cloak and Dagger, the Steel, put me into stealth, and then I can use my sneak attack, and then we have tons of conditions on that guy. So that's pretty much all you do. You use your Venoms, Cloak and Dagger, Steel. Make sure you're stealing when you can interrupt to put the confusion on if you're in World versus World. And as PvP, it doesn't matter nearly as much. Just make sure they're not dodging or blocking. And after you use your Venoms and your big condition burst, then go around using your Cloak and Dagger, popping in and out of stealth, using your sneak attack. Another really good skill is Shadow Strike. If I tied this into my, let me get over here. I could tie the Shadow Strike into my original burst as well, because I could put my Venoms on. Yeah, I could put my Venoms on, use my Cloak and Dagger, then Steel, then put all my bleeds on for sneak attack, then hit them with Shadow Strike, putting even more torment on, 5 stacks of torment, and just sitting back and hitting them with some vital shots for some more bleeding. So that's pretty much how the build works. It'll take a little while to get used to. Like I said in the intro, it can take a little while to get this build down and just understanding the philosophy behind it. But it's a really fun build, and you'll do tons of condition damage. In bigger group fights like 5v5s, I actually really love this build because you can pop in and out of stealth, and when you come out of stealth, you can just start harassing one person, and by the time he knows it, you could go back into stealth and start harassing somebody else. You're kind of running around picking people off, and I've had a lot of really fun fights out in World vs. World with this build. Well, that about does it for this Thief build video. I hope you guys enjoyed and give it a shot. I really love this build. I was out in World vs. World all night last night with it, just having so much fun in certain fights. And if you have any comments, make sure you're leaving them below. If you have any questions on how this build plays, then make sure you're leaving some comments and questions below, and I will try to get back to you. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and like and share with your friends. Thanks, guys. We're going to be taking out one target at a time, but we're going to be taking out that target very quickly. We do tons of damage with our phantasms. Not only that, the build actually offers tons of sustainability through its playstyle alone. Summoning out phantasms and clones and popping into stealth and stunning with some of our utilities is a big deal, and it adds a lot of confusion to the person you're fighting. They're always trying to look for you. They don't know which one to kill, and some of our traits even damage a person